Hey friend, welcome back. I want to talk today about one of the biggest questions that I get asked as a nutritionist, and it's about alcohol. So, what about it? What about alcohol? Do you think that you need to give it up completely to lose weight or get rid of the belly fat or balance your hormones or to be healthy? Or can you still enjoy a glass of wine on the weekend and still see results? That's what we're going to dive into here today. So, if you don't know me, hello, I'm Sharlene Stiles. I am your holistic nutritionist and holistic life coach. I predominantly work with women who are working on balancing their hormones, getting some results in the weight department, and also firing up their metabolism so that they feel amazing. So, this is a question that I get asked very often as I'm working with my clients to develop a custom nutrition plan. It's about wine, usually about wine. Sometimes it's just alcohol in general, but generally it's related to wine. So if you've been asking this question yourself, I hope that this video is going to answer some of the questions for you. So let's talk about what alcohol actually does, besides create some kind of special environment or making us feel like we're celebrating or feel special or that is socially acceptable, because that's all part of it too. Metabolically speaking, alcohol takes priority to be evacuated. Alcohol is actually a neurotoxin to our system, so our body sees it as a threat and it needs to eliminate or deal or process with this threat or this toxin first. So it takes top priority. And what that means is our system metabolically gets kind of stalled because it's dealing with this invader, this threat, and that is on high alert for our body to get rid of and void this toxin. So our fat burning gets paused, digestion actually gets paused because we're dealing with, or our body is dealing with this threat with the alcohol to get it out. So that means that the carbs and the fats that we eat with it are more likely to get stored instead of being used. And guess where they get stored? Yes, you got it, as fat. So this is why potentially that glass of wine that you have with the pasta might hit a whole lot differently than pasta does on its own. The other thing that we need to consider is, metabolically speaking, what alcohol does to our metabolism. You may have already guessed that it actually slows it. So your liver starts to work overtime to detoxify the alcohol to get rid of it. And that means basically it has less capacity to break down fat. So this is probably not what we want to create if given our choice. This is where women especially notice more belly fat creeping in, or stubborn fat around the belly. I mean, from a variety of reasons, but alcohol certainly can be a contributing factor. So even if you're eating healthy and alcohol is part of your regular part of your week or your routine, it will actually slow the process. So, what I have come to learn is that, metabolically speaking, alcohol can actually stunt or suppress or have a metabolic ripple effect for up to 3 days afterwards. So, we can see it on the scale in terms of inflammation, and it has this whole host of ripple effect, which we'll talk about. So, over time, this is what can contribute to excess fat, and particularly midsection kind of fat or belly buildup. The other thing that I'm sure you've probably come into contact with or noticed yourself is that it can disrupt our hormones and also our sleep cycle. So, this is where it really shows up for women, particularly midlife women, when we already have a bit of a chaotic storm happening, and then we throw in this other variable that it it just adds more fuel to the fire, if you will. So alcohol does really weird things to our blood sugar. It can spike it first and then have it crash. It can actually That's typically what happens. It can also decline your blood sugar levels first and then spike it. So either way, it creates this bit of a roller coaster. And what those crashes and spikes do, or these fluctuations, these big swings in our blood sugar, is it creates an additional stress. So what that does is it prompts cortisol, which is our stress hormone. And then that conversely has a ripple effect that also affects our sex hormones. And then, of course, the sleep. You may notice this when you've been drinking that you can crash very easily. So you may fall asleep very quickly, but then later your sleep is interrupted or you're woke. Did I say that right? Awoke, woken, woke, awoke. You wake up in the middle of the night and you can't get back to sleep. Or I hear this quite a lot, or hot flashes are triggered quite predominantly during sleep after drinking alcohol. So this is the balance of hormones, the ripple effect of cortisol, but also of inflammatory responses that the body is dealing with. And of course, is if your liver isn't metabolizing the alcohol, this has, a lot of variables mixed into this. So then what happens during our sleep, our body can't heal and repair what it's supposed to do during that time. So we wake up the next day with loss of energy or feeling fatigued. And then also our body is looking for more fuel because we need more energy. So that creates cravings and hunger the next day, far beyond the night of. So they can make it harder to stick to a nutrition plan after one night of indulgence of alcohol. The other thing that we should talk about nutritionally is the hidden sugar and also additional calories. I'm not big on calories in, calories out, but we have to face the fact that what we're taking in contributes or takes away from our capacity for our body to build its own energy and be its own energy source. So when we're taking in additional alcohol and we have, calories that we're taking in, but also there's no nutritional value. So it's nutritionally void of anything. So it does actually increase our calorie count, of course, but it also impairs the nutrients that our body can get. So when we're mixing alcohol, like, if you're having cocktails or wine or even mixers, these are all things that have a high sugar amount, so that we have a really big sugar load on the top end, which contributes to this whole insulin kind of cascade and roller coaster that we talked about, on top of spiking or stimulating our appetite. So if you've ever noticed that when you've been drinking, that, fries and tacos and pizza a few hours later feels like the greatest idea. So there's this whole ripple thing that happens with our blood sugar, this roller coaster that causes our blood sugar to swing and then it can spike and then it crashes. And then when the blood sugar dips, our brain sends these hunger hormones that it's a great idea to get more fuel right now and particularly quickly and quick carbs. So this is what prompts these cravings. And then that's the sudden urge to, look for something, got the munchies, that's what happens. But what it also does is it affects our hunger hormones, our hunger and satiety hormones. Leptin is our full hormone, which gets suppressed so we don't feel as full. And also, it increases our ghrelin, which is our hunger hormone. So, this is why you don't just feel hungrier, you also feel less satisfied when you eat after you've been drinking. And then this little loop that happens within our brain, alcohol boost dopamine, which is the reward kind of pleasure chemical or hormone, that feel good neurotransmitter. So when we pair that with food, our brain craves more of both the alcohol and the food, because it's rewarding. It feels great. So that's why that glass of wine and the chips or the popcorn or the pizza or the fries also feel like they want to keep the party going, and maybe why you want to keep the party going and stay longer, because it just feels good. So with alcohol, you probably already know it lowers our inhibitions. So it shunts our ability or smothers our self-control capacity that's located in the prefrontal cortex. This is what alcohol does. So that little voice that kind of keeps us in check, often it gets quieted or locked in a closet, and nobody pays attention to her screaming that this isn't a good idea and you need to get up in the morning, all the things. So anyhow, this could be a very good loop. The other thing that I think we should we should talk about is the the stress that alcohol puts on our gut and also our liver, so our organs. When we talk about our gut, we're looking at microbiome and how alcohol can degrade our intestinal lining and the good bacteria that exist in our systems. So, liver does a really big job in terms of detoxifying and filtering all the things that we eat. So, this is the cornerstone for metabolism and also hormone function and production, which gets impaired by alcohol. So we can get gas or bloating or even poor digestion or cravings from alcohol itself because of that contributing factor of the intestinal lining being degraded. And then, of course, as we slow down the liver, because it's having to do a heavier job here, we have slower detox pathways. We have hormone clearance that gets stalled, and also our nutrient absorption gets halted, which then affects our rate of metabolism and our body's ability to keep the metabolic fire or engine going as we would want it to. So, all of that to say, there comes a price with alcohol, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't cut out or you should cut out alcohol or never drink again. That is certainly not what I'm saying. What I am saying, though, is to hopefully bring you some awareness of to what truly matters and what truly is going on, even though it's something in the moment that feels good, just knowing the trade-off that comes along with it. So, instead of saying I can't drink because I'm doing this thing for my health, maybe to look at it with more compassion and kindness and look at it from not the immediate effect, but how it's going to feel in the future. Like how do I want to feel knowing the way that alcohol is going to make me feel tomorrow, or perhaps the ripple effect even metabolically in the days to come. The one thing that I didn't mention here is alcohol is a depressant. In the moment, it sure doesn't feel like that because the pleasure and reward thing is going on. But the next day, if you've ever felt down, like life isn't just as sparkly, or you have these cravings, you're fatigued, this is why. So that was a catalyst for me to pause on the alcohol, to be completely honest. I love feeling good, and alcohol just doesn't make me feel good. There are certain times where I make the trade-off in terms of celebration or pairing it with a meal, metabolically speaking. I'm knowing that it's not going to have such an impact, drink a lot of water, take my time enjoying a drink rather than just, slamming a whole bunch back. Anyhow, that's a personal note, but I would say if I can offer you any suggestions is to consider and to pay attention to how you feel, like truly feel, how your body feels, your mind feels, the results that you see maybe on the scale or with the goals that you're trying to attain, and see how you feel on the days or the weeks that you drink versus the times and days or weeks that you don't. How does it affect your energy? How does it affect your mood? How does it affect your cravings? Just be cautious of it. Not, I don't mean cautious of it, aware of it. I think that's a really great starting point. And that reflection alone, I believe, can be so super powerful. So the thing is, you don't have to miss out on the fun. It's really interesting when we kind of step away from alcohol or diminish the amount that we drink. Whatever we put in our glass can feel special, and that might be part of the process of putting something really interesting and fun in your glass. Having the conversations after about with your circle of people why you may not be participating, perhaps is another conversation and something that I do with my clients. However, if you are looking to put something fun in your glass, I do have a free resource that you can download. It is a mocktail recipe, and I've made it intentionally to replicate some common kind of standard cocktails, and I use some really interesting ingredients that are all natural and don't contain a lot of sugar or any sugar in many cases. Because I find that the mocktail situation today has been taken over by well-intentioned companies, of course, that they're making profits, but they're also putting in there a lot of chemicals and a lot of sugars and a lot of sweeteners and even colorants and flavorants. So, flavorants? I don't think that's a word. Flavors, forgive me. I just made up a word. Um, so my mocktail recipe guide is using, I mean, this may surprise you, maybe not. For those of you that know me, you will not be surprised. I use flavored vinegars, balsamic vinegars, dark and whites, with different enhancements from different fruits that is added after the fermentation process to sweeten the drinks and give them flavor without adding a whole bunch of ingredients or really weird fillers. Anyhow, if you'd like to download the book, if you're curious, please, I'll drop it in the link below. And I'd love to know if you do take a pause or when you do take a pause, what you've noticed in changes of your sleep, your weight, your energy, your mood, your skin. It has all an impact. So your story, your comments may just inspire someone else, and I would truly love to hear what your take is on this. And please don't forget to download the mocktail guide. And if you want to talk more about your metabolism, your hormones, or your midlife health, just hit subscribe, stick around here, and there's so much more coming your way. Okay, thanks. Bye for now.